The main reason rebranded the podcast, the Mastering Midlife Podcast, to the Mastering Overwhelm Podcast is because of basically my mission in life. And my mission in life has somehow morphed into letting you all know that you are free. I'm like an ex-smoker. When I was reading, in the middle of reading Alan Cohen's Relax into Wealth, it's just somehow dawned on me that I have choices in life. I've always been a people pleaser. I've always been all things to all people. I wore that as a badge of honor because I'm smart, I'm competent, I have a lot of energy. I can always be all things to all people. And somewhere in the middle of that book, I kind of woke up to everything I've done in my life has been a choice. I get to actually live, make choices, and kind of live the life I want to live the life I want. Which, again, it took a few years once that revelation happened. And then with the writing of Only Tens, I realized I had a choice with my time and my attention, with what I said yes to, with what I said no to. So freedom has been the focus of what I'm trying to impart to the world. Because, again, I'm an ex-smoker, being a people pleaser and feeling like in the box of who Marc Silverman was. I want you all to know what I found, right? So it's a little obnoxious at some point, but it's also useful to know because I've been in that box. One of the first things I did, besides getting sober, way back in 1980, wow, 1989 when I got sober, that was my first reinvention. Somehow in the early 2000s, I decided I didn't like my name. So my name used to be Marc J. Silverman, M-A-R-C, and then J-A-Y, Silverman, Marc J. Silverman. And I always found Marc, M-A-R-C, to be soft. And I always felt small and inadequate and not powerful. And I always felt my name was somehow sabotaging to me. I was always resented my mother for giving me M-A-R-C instead of M-A-R-K. It was different. People didn't understand. People spelled my name wrong all the time, and it just felt soft. And I never knew that you could change your name. I never knew that legally you can change the spelling of your name. So for $35, I sent in the application to change my name from M-A-R-C to M-A-R-K. So now when you see anything in my world, it's Marc, M-A-R-K, the letter J, Silverman. For me, it just feels really strong. It feels like I've left behind that persona that had such trouble in the world, had such a hard time living in the world. And I grew into Marc J. Silverman, and Marc with the K just felt so much stronger. So when I had my kids, Zach and Jake, I wanted K's in their name. I wanted that strong name. Again, M-A-R-C is a beautiful name if you're feeling comfortable with yourself, which I wasn't. And I really wanted my own name, not what my mother gave me. Makes me think of a book that I read a long time ago, and I still recommend to this day. I've talked about Steve Chandler all the time. Steve Chandler, word for word, paragraph for paragraph, gives more value in a book than anybody I have ever come across in my life, except maybe now Michael Bungay Stanier, The Coaching Habit, and do more great work. I'm starting to really enjoy his books also. But reinventing yourself, how to become the person you've always wanted to be. So here's the dirty little secret about being. I get to create myself every day. Now that sounds a little new agey, but what we really get stuck in is our conditioning from the past, our family of origin, the things that happen to us. If we got bit by a dog, we don't like dogs. If we grew up with dogs, we love dogs, right? So those decisions and choices, things that happen, and what we decided from them, who we were told we were. Oh, you're the smart one. You're the lovable one. You're this person in your family of origin, in your neighborhood. And you start to build a persona of who you are, and then you wind up speaking kind of in a fixed mindset. Oh, I'm this way. I'll always be this way. I'm too old to change, right? And what I learned, I could be a homeless drunk, And then I could be a sober waiter, and then I could get married, and then I could take a sales job, and then, oh my God, I can drive a Lexus convertible and live in $1 million house, and I could be a rich guy. I have been so many different people in my life that if anybody tells me that they're stuck being who they are, I just have to laugh, because I'm just not the same person I was 5 years ago. So now let's go here. I want to be a little more specific. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. I've watched a TV show. I've read a book. I've had an interaction. Everything informs who I am. But the other thing that I do every morning is I wake up early before everybody else, and I journal and I meditate, and I have a set of declarations where I create myself to be who I want to be. I got those from my friend John Morgan and our mutual coach, Steve Hardison, who is, there's a book called The Ultimate Coach, and there's a coaching community that there's now like 4,000 or 5,000 people, and it's really crazy, that talks about being and creating yourself every day. And that creation, that declaration of who I am in the world has more impact on how I show up in the world than my past. I still fall in the manhole. I still fall in, and I become that old guy, more times than I care to admit. But every day I consciously reinvent myself. Who do I want to be today? Who do I need to be for my clients? Who do I need to be for my children? Who do I want to be today? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to act? I thought about starting this podcast was by saying, I'm a fraud. We're all frauds because we're all these personas that were built from what happened to us. That authenticity takes a lot of work to shed the conditioning, to shed all that stuff so that we can actually show up in a way of being. But even that's kind of a fraud, because we can create ourselves to be who we need to be in any given situation. Todd Herman wrote a book. Oh God, please don't let me forget the name of the book while I'm speaking to you. It's on my shelf. I'm going to look over. Todd Herman wrote a book about alter egos. Yes, the alter ego effect. In other words, if you need to be smart, you put on glasses. Martin Luther King did not actually need glasses. He put those glasses on so he could put the persona on, so that he could stand up and be the person he needed to be for his community. We bring talisman. We people keep there's stories in Todd's book about football players who've kept their favorite football player in their sock while they practice, so that they can emulate that person. You get to be a different person this afternoon. You get to be a different person this morning. It's a deliberate effort. It is a deliberate choice. And now going against the conditioning is not easy. There's trauma. There's the groove is just deep in who we were yesterday, but it's not impossible. So if changing my name from Marc to Mark can help me reinvent myself, you can reinvent yourself today. I really recommend the book, Reinventing Yourself by Steve Chandler. Absolutely brilliant. Also The Ultimate Coach, which is about Steve Hardison, but it's actually not about Steve Hardison. It's not even about the clients that he talks about in the book. It's about how do you want to show up by looking at these people and watching how they create themselves. How do you want to create yourself? There's so many resources in the world. This podcast is just a tip of the iceberg, and I'm trying to point you towards all this little gold that's along the road of your life. I love you guys a ton. That's why I'm sitting here in front of this microphone, in front of this camera. I love you a ton. I want you to know you're free. I want you to know you can be who you want to be. You can reinvent yourself no matter what your responsibilities are, no matter what has held you down. You can be who you want to be. It just takes that effort and that decision. I love you. Have a great rest of the day.